Yo, what is good, y'all? Another YCS has just concluded this weekend, so we have Cancun next weekend, and Vancouver is now officially over. Some pretty interesting things came out of this YCS. We saw Dragon Link actually have the second most top spots, better than Kashtira, better than Purrely, not better than Unchained, because Unchained is still insane, evidently. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. A lot of rogue decks actually making it there. We had Infernoble going pretty deep. Branded Chimera kind of underperforming. Rescue Ace underperforming, I would definitely say. But Purrely still pretty good. I'd say Purrely's one of the best decks. Kashtira is one of the best decks. Unchained is one of the best decks. And then Dragon Link is just like, if you asked me a month ago, I definitely wouldn't have thought that Dragon Link would have been better than like Rescue Ace, Manadium, Labyrinth, Branded Chimera. Like, especially when these decks first started popping up, I would not have thought that Dragon Link would outperform them, especially after what we saw in the 3v3 YCS. I know one list did win, but it didn't, like, it was only two top spots out of Brazil with all like the 3v3 decks. It might have been a little more, but it wasn't the same ratios that we see from this. So relatively, did way better in singles. Deck is still like insanely powerful. And I think it kind of has that caveat where like when Branded Chimera, last week and Rescue Ace, like these decks were kind of newer, so it was like harder to know what to do against them, especially with so many decks in the format. It's hard to play perfect versus every single deck unless you've been playtesting a lot. And I think Dragon Link kind of gains that spot because maybe people are unprepared for it as well. Even though a lot of people are maining Nibiru now. But yeah, and then when we see this translate to top 16, we actually see Dragon Link do a little less good. Um, we see Kashtira get second. Sorry, my cat's on my lap. But we're just rolling with it. Whatever. But yeah, so we see Kashtira actually going way better when we get to top 16, and Dragon Link kind of dwindling down, but Purrely still getting there. Purrely actually went the furthest out of any deck that wasn't Unchained, getting a top 4 spot. Was the top 8 pairing, so the Purrely actually didn't play versus Unchained. That was Chris LeBlanc. He played versus Infernoble, and he actually took out the only kind of like semi-rogue deck that was in top 8. We also only saw one Kashtira, so one Kashtira, one Purrely, they're kind of even, and it just looks like Unchained is like the tier 0 deck, but it's also the players piloting it. I mean, we have Chris LeBlanc, who's a really, really good player, and then we also have Jesse Cotton, but he's playing Unchained. If Jesse played Kashtira or Purrely, would he still be going as far? Maybe not winning the whole event, but I definitely think he would be getting top 8 still, so it's hard to say, unless it's matchups. Definitely got to zoom in on some of these photos. So we're going in order here with all the decks that have actually came out in these recent YouTube profiles and on the spreadsheets. This first one's going to be Manadium. I tried my best to get every single deck that has came out so far, so we have the most material for it. That's about like 10 deck list. With this Manadium list, anything really cool here for him to get the top 32 spot? I mean, we only see 2 Fenrir. I think Fenrir is just a really good generic card. We only see 1 Book of Eclipse with 3 Book of Moons in the main. So that was their side card of choice. We see the Called By on the main, so we didn't actually main Designator. We do have it in the side deck. The 3 talents are definitely just good in combo decks, as we saw with Kamal's first list during Brazil. Anything else cool about the extra deck? They're playing the Sword Soul level 10. They're playing Chaos Angel. So they're not doing the actual Calamity FTK. They're actually having some back and forth with their opponent. We do see that they have an Apo. So you get about, like, I would say you're usually ending on Dispatter, Baron, and Apo with a counter trap set, which is kind of like game versus a lot of decks. Obviously, you don't need to do the full Calamity lock to win. And then we have the 3 Jewels on the side for the mirror, the Gamma Seals for decks like Purrely, Kashtira, the Nibirus, would be good versus Dragon Link. Sometimes it's not that good versus Dragon Link, especially if the Dragon Link player knows what they're doing. But Nibiru is pretty solid versus Unchained as well. And then we have Labyrinth. So this isn't actually Ryan Yu's list. I know a lot of people probably want to see that. He's been performing really well with Labyrinth. But we see anything unique about this list? I mean, they're obviously doing the couch package. Oh, wow, they're actually running this card that when it's sent to the grave... See, like I said, I don't remember cards by name. I think it's like Skull Knight or something. I'm terrible with names. But I do remember effects. So this card is an MST when it's sent to the graveyard, or it's a Book of Moon. I'm like almost 100% positive that's what it does. And he's running 2 level 4s with the 1 Unchained Saruya. So that's pretty cool. I definitely think this card is just like a really, really cool card. Like, this card's always good in Cube, and it's been good in some formats where you're just able to get that generic Foolish, maybe with like a card like Beatrice. Um, they're running one new of the one other Labyrinth level 4, which is pretty cool. Anything else would I say about this list? I mean, we have the 3 Ash Blossom, the 3 Imperm, so we're going like light on traps. We only have the 1 Unchained Trap, and then the 1 Drama Karma Cannon. We have the Keldo and Medora on the side. We also have the Magnamuts with the hand trap that is a dragon that we can search Phantasme. So you can actually search this off Magnamut because it is a dragon, which is pretty cool interaction. Because usually you are siding your Bestials and versus a deck like Unchained, so being able to search that is somewhat relevant because that's also the deck you would be siding in the Phantasme against. Obviously, we have a maxed out extra deck too for the extravagances, by the way. Kurikaras hits a lot of decks, hits Kashtira, hits Purrely, pretty much any deck where they activate effects. I mean, you could even consider it a good side card versus Dragon Link, I would definitely say. We have the Floodgate sidecars, we have the Eradicator, the D-Barrier. We have Called By to help going first, and then we have the 1 Feather Duster for, I assume, a mirror match of some sort, spell trap removal. Then we got Dragon Link. Anything we noticed different about a list like Ruben's last week? I don't really notice anything that different. So definitely, I think the Dragon Link list. I mean, they are playing Rocket Caliber. They got the Darkness Metal package. Anything cool about the extra deck? They are running the Scarlight for time. This is a pretty standard extra deck, I would say, and they're not maining Nibiru. They have Starliege. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty basic list. They're siding Pinkertops, which is interesting. Pinkertops is kind of a good card, I would say, but not many people are siding it lately. Or really ever. It has not came up. I've tried it in and out of formats. It's at 1 for a reason, I would think, so kind of cool. And then we have a 3 Droll, 3 Nibiru, Droll for Manadium and some other decks, Nibiru also for Dragon Link and Unchained. I guess we've already went through those cards, so I won't go through them again. And then I had to make this one from scratch just because I didn't actually see anyone post it. So this is the Rescue Ace that got top 16. I thought this Rescue Ace list was actually pretty cool. So this Rescue Ace list really goes minimal with the Rescue Ace monsters. So we're running the 3 Impulse, only 1 Fire Engine. So basically the Fire Engine, just in case we open kind of godly, we can go Special Fire Engine off Impulse, Special Airlifter, Tribute Airlifter, Summon Preventer, and our opponent's turn. It's pretty nice. That's usually what you're going for, so you don't need the mini Charity where you draw 2, discard 1. You'd rather just have this. I definitely agree with that line. I think these are the perfect ratios as of now for Rescue Ace. 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Nibiru, 3 Imperm. Definitely the 9 best hand traps, I would say, right now. Definitely have made that point before in the top 5 hand traps video. And then we have 3 Book of Moon, 3 Prosperity, 2 Talents. Yeah, so it's a pretty basic list. I think Book of Moon's a solid main card as another just non-engine. That brings us up to 14 non-engine for going second. Talents obviously can be considered a going first card as well. We have the 3 XYZ Encore, so this is for Purrely and Kashtira. Will definitely help us there for that matchup. 3 Magnamut and 2 Druid Worm, so a lot of 5. We noticed the trend of a lot of Bestial packages in the side deck, obviously adapting to that Unchained. Now, is it enough for Unchained? I do not believe so. Obviously, evidently, it has not been enough for Unchained. So we might have to switch up the side patterns a little bit because just Magnamuts and Druid Worms I don't think is enough. 3 Econ, an extra Talents, so we already made 2, and then we have another one for the side. No Thrust, don't need it. Harpy's Feather Duster and 2 Lightning Storm. I actually prefer this. No one's siding Anti-Spell anymore. Runic is really fallen off as a deck as well, so Cosmic is... Yeah, I think Cosmic is just actually worse than these 2 cards. Obviously, Cosmic is like, you could consider it better versus Unchained because you're not destroying the card, but yeah, who cares? I'll just side in some other cards that are more specified for that matchup. The extra deck is actually pretty cool. I've not seen an extra deck like this really. With some of these cards, especially with the rank 4s, he's running Dweller and Baguska. So he did say that he never made Baguska, and he also never made Top Logic Bomber Dragon. So I would assume we shouldn't be running those cards in the future if we never made them going all the way through top 16 of YCS. He would have made Baguska against his Fluandree's opponent. So we have the Link Rebo, Anima. We're playing Security Dragon, which is just kind of it is a Cybers, but it's probably going to get phased out by IP or SP. Sorry, I would definitely say that card will get phased out. We're running the Puzzlomino, and we are running Salamangreat Heat Leo. So I thought this was cool because these are just all cards you don't really see, but it's kind of like that's just spot removal you need versus a card like or a deck like Purrely. I would definitely consider all these cards really good, and then we're just going into a Heat Soul, maybe a Dweller versus the Unchained matchup. So more specified for the meta. Definitely made some like more meta calls with this list rather than just going like Firewall Link 6 package that we see in a lot of the regional lists that have done well. And then we got the Infernoble list that got top 8. So I think this deck is just so insane, and I think this deck actually takes advantage of people playing Nibiru in the main and side now, because this deck I've seen every time I've Nibiru'd this deck, it just like still pops off so much. Like Nibiru does not hurt it that much. So I definitely think this deck took advantage of people's like not knowing what it does a lot, and decks can definitely do that, especially at YCS's. You're expecting all these other decks, and then you play versus Infernoble, you're not going to really know what to do. As a lot of powerful cards. We obviously see the Neospatian engine, which is pretty cool. We have the like pseudo Omni Negate, kind of Omni Negate. Anything else that's really cool about this list? I mean, I like the ratios a lot. I'm not the most experienced Infernoble player, so I can't give that much advice. We got some Noble Knight cards. We have 3 Book of Eclipse, 3 Book of Moon, 3 Imperm for the non-engine, so that's only 9 going second cards, and I'm assuming we're really just FTKing our opponents basically when we go first. So that's why this deck probably doesn't perform as well, because we can only fit 9 going second engine, even though we make such an insane board going first. Obviously, Isolde is just an insane card. DD Crow's on the side over the Bystials. Definitely helps with your Purrely matchup or a couple other matchups. I definitely would say DD Crow outperforms the Bystials, even though Magnuma is a +1. But we will see that, Crystal Blanc sided 3 Druid Swarms and no Magnamuts, so that's pretty interesting. 3 Ash, so we're not maining Ash, we're actually saying that Imperm is better than Ash Blossom. I would somewhat agree. Branded and Despia is definitely phasing out of the meta, and with how much Branded Chimera we actually saw underperform, we might not really need the Ash to beat that deck, right? 1 Herald of the Abyss, 2 Dark Ruler, 2 Thrust, 2 Evenly, 1 D-Barrier, so I assume they've actually practiced a lot of patterns, because it's interesting when you do cards like Dark Ruler Evenly and you don't do 3 and 1, or you instead doing 2 and 2, so I guess you would have to know what his patterns are specified for. Obviously, Evenly is going to be better versus a deck like Labyrinth, where Dark Ruler might be better versus a deck like that makes an Apo, like say a mirror match for this. And then we have the Purrely list that actually got top 4 by Chris. So what can we say about this? This is pretty much all of the adaptations I've made in my list. So like maining 3 Nibiru, maining 3 Ash, still, because why wouldn't you in a deck like Purrely? It's just so good to draw with it into Sleepy. 3 Imperm, 3 Book of Eclipse, and 1 Book of Moon. I definitely think Book of Eclipse is better. Maybe I would have done 2 and 1. I probably would play Upstart. I probably would have went to 2 and 1. I probably would have mained 3 of the Field Spell. Even though we've seen 2 lists do well without it, I still think 3 Field Spell is really good. But I definitely would have tried to get 40. Obviously, you have to play the 1 Book of Moon just for Cross-Out Designator when you go first, so it's more of a solemn judgment when you actually open it and don't use it on a hand trap, because you don't always use it on a hand trap. Obviously, Jewel has completely phased out with all these lists we've seen. Droll was the card everyone thought was going to be so broken. It is not. We have the level 6 Floodgate in the side. We have 3 Solemns. We're not running a Contact C out, so that's 2 of the best performing Purrely lists that we've seen this weekend and last weekend. Not playing any Contact C out. Maybe Contact C should be more in the meta, but Purrely isn't the biggest deck or the deck that everyone's scared of anymore. It's really just Unchained, so that's probably why Contact C is still not being played. Only 2 Drolls on the side, the 3 Druid Swarms I mentioned before. The 1-of D-Barrier, which is fine. I definitely consider 1-ofs fine when you're playing a card like Prosperity and you're digging out your deck. Why not just play 1-of? You might be able to see the top 6 cards of your deck and get that D-Barrier, so it makes sense. I definitely would say even if you're not playing a card like Thrust. And then we have the top 4 was 3 Unchained, 1 Purrely, so this is the 3rd place Unchained. Basically exactly the same as Peck and Jesse's list on the main deck. They are running the Nightmare Griffin, 3 Ash. They are citing Anti-Spell, so maybe that's something. Well, you're not really citing Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster and versus this deck anyway. Cosmic's phasing out. Anti-Spell definitely gets way better. They're citing only 1 Karma Cannon, so they're citing 1 D-Barrier because they are maining the 2 Thrusts and citing the 1 additional Thrust. They're doing Change of Heart, Mind Control, basically maxing out what they can with the Take Control. We will see the Electric Virus, the Music Meek or whatever that takes control of Fiends in Jesse's list instead of the Change of Heart, which is pretty cool. Cody, who actually made the 3-Axis deck, got second at this event. Anything interesting about his list is pretty standard. It's more along the lines of what Pat played with the 3 Fenrir in the main. He has the 1 Herald of the Abyss for the triple Tactics Thrust, so he can search that, and the 1-of Talent for, I assume, the same reason. Anything interesting about the side? He's citing the 3 Nibirus, the 3 Ashes. Citing hand traps is just weird to me in theory, though. And you can apply that to all of these lists that we've gone over, that citing hand traps is definitely weird. There are way more powerful cards. Although Ash Blossom on Brand Diffusion is really good, that is the only reason I think I would ever consider citing Ash Blossom. At least in today's meta, what are you really hitting with Ash Blossom that gets that much value that you wouldn't just main it instead? So that's definitely my opinion on that. And then this is the Electric Virus card. So we have 3 Meek, along with the Change of Heart. No Mind Control. We'd rather just run Meek. I definitely think that's pretty cool. Jesse's also citing the Ash Blossom, but he's maining the Nibirus. He's got no Imperms in the main. He is running the 1 Unchained spell. I remember this card I've actually always thought is really good, and I was surprised people didn't play it in Unchained. 3 Book of Eclipse, so saying Book of Eclipse is better than Book of Moon. Harpy's Feather Duster in the main, because we are running 3 Thrusts and the Talents, so we're not running Herald of the Abyss. We're not trying to go for Purrely. We're actually just trying to be better versus the Labyrinth matchup, because Labyrinth does activate monster effects. So I do think having a Harpy's Feather Duster when you're already playing Thrust is actually justified. I definitely would think so. And we're siding the Herald of the Abyss for the Thrust anyway. And then we have the 2 Lightning Storms, additional back row removal, Karma Cannon, the D-Barrier, the 1-of Floodgates, and then the 1-of Evenly to probably just polish off the last card for our side patterns. I'm assuming with his Druid Worm, he already has all of his side patterns locked down, and that's why he justified the 1-of Evenly. Also, you can thrust into Evenly Matched anyway, so that's also pretty cool because it is a normal spell trap. Alright, and that's all of the list from the YCS. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think is actually going to win Cancun. Is it going to be Unchained again? More so, better question probably, what do you think is going to be the second best deck at YCS Cancun based off these 2 YCSs? Unchained is undoubtedly going to be first, but what counters Unchained the most? Do you think people were just unprepared for Unchained? Definitely let me know, and have a great day.